We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. We will honor the American people with the truth and nothing else.
Come on, man.
That whether we are black,
You ain't black.
or brown, or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. And we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Spangled Banter. Today, Summer and I have a very special guest, our friend Jana. Jana has a very unique and inspiring story about fleeing socialism and coming to America for the American dream. And she's the sweetest person. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she's a freedom fighter just like us. And so we were super excited to have her on. And she's very outspoken about how she sees a lot of the things that are happening in America, you know, how we're on kind of a slippery slope and we could slip into socialism pretty easily because she saw it happen in her country growing up. So I believe she came here when she was 22. She saved up money and just decided that America was the place to be. And, I think we can all appreciate that. It is a great place and we want to keep it that way.
I agree. And I also want to add that this is our first video interview. So that's exciting. And Jana, congrats on being our first video ever and interviewee. So, super excited to have Jana with us. And without further ado, Jana, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell where you came from, how you got here, and a little bit of your experience.
Sure. Hi, Heather. Hi, Summer. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on your show. This is awesome.
Thank you.
So I came when I was 22. My brother lived in the United States for a couple of years with his wife, and then I arrived, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or not, but I did decide to stay. I found I was a makeup artist. I was very young, and I found a company that wanted to use some of my skills. And in a short period of time, I worked as an independent contractor, got through some papers, some visas and stuff to extend my stay, got a little work permit. Anyway, over the period of time, that company was sponsoring my papers because they loved my work. So that's how I started my journey here in the United States. Didn't really know when I arrived on Halloween.
Oh.
It was so different because we don't have that back home. So it was kind of like, wow, is that a good sign or not, or what? Witches and stuff.
Right.
But it was different. And, all the America I knew was through the movies and all the, Hollywood stuff. So it was definitely different. But I loved the ocean. So, and that was even different because I knew only Mediterranean Sea. So everything was different and new, but I was very optimistic. And I loved the idea of being able to work and earn enough money to live a good life. It's a very simple formula that we take it for granted maybe here in the United States, but where I grew up, you could work really hard and really not afford simple things in life. And so anyway, so I was a makeup artist and for 12 years. Meanwhile, somewhere in the middle, I met my husband, got married, had 2 kids, started fitness career, and I was full-blown fitness trainer and fitness instructor for many, many years. So I've been kind of doing both parallel, and then went into the more spa industry, doing beauty and skincare as an esthetician. So I've been kind of going from one career to another or doing them parallel all these years. Loved it all. Now I'm doing photography and kind of launching my photography business end of this year. And that's where I'm today. We're here in the United States.
Oh, sorry. What kind of photography do you do?
Yeah, I'm going to do portrait photography for business,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been doing like an amateur photography for many years. Landscape was always my favorite, but I loved people and people's faces and capturing their inside, like their real mood and their happiness and motion. People in motion, that's my favorite, when I can capture what they carry and their cheerful, any kind of expression they have. I love that.
That's
Catching
that's
that,
cool.
capturing
Yeah,
is very special.
their energy.
Yes, yes.
I love that. I love like learning about, the body and the brain and like human nature. So that's really cool. And yeah, photography can really do that. So that's awesome. Well, congratulations to you on the new business venture. That would be awesome.
So much.
We'll have to keep you in mind when we do need a new logo, because we just kind of did it on the fly with an iPhone photo, but that'd be awesome. So cool.
It's all good.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like you are living the real American dream that so many Americans wish they were living sometimes, Seems like you saw where sometimes we are a little bit more complacent, or I don't know, spoiled, or it seems like when people from different countries come to America, they really take advantage of what America has to offer. And I think that, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and like what do you think drives that? Like maybe you can tell us what life was like a little bit when you were living in Yugoslavia, prior to, or I guess former Yugoslavia.
Well, we were, Yugoslavia was a socialist country, and we did, of course, Communist Party was the leadership of the country. But luckily, we had like a softer communism, meaning that we could, with our passports, we could travel, and our stores were full. We could buy things, and when you would travel to neighboring Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, Czechoslovakia, back then, it was kind of different. And so we were somewhere in between. So that was kind of a good thing. And growing up as a child, socialism was, I think, that's a positive thing that I do remember. There's not only negative, there's positive. And that is that my mom would drop me off at school or kindergarten or preschool, let's say, and I would be taken care of all day with all the meals, all the instruction and tutoring and sports and anything I ever was interested in. Parents never had to worry about like paying for extra for any sports activities and things like that. So that was fun and that was great. Where the difficult part begins is when you're becoming an adult, and even though you have school and education or skills, you can't find really even if you find job nowadays, they don't have really, economy is really tough to find even a job. But even when I was there, you could find a job, but it pays so little that you could not afford things like you can have a dream of buying a home. That's just out of the question, unless you are in high up in Communist Party and you have your cliques and you scratch somebody's back, somebody scratch yours back, and maybe you steal something or do things publicly and things, etc. And then that's socialism taught us all that people who are successful, sometimes they are successful, if they're famous artists, they could be successful, but other than that, pretty much corruption feeds success. And if you're just honest professor or surgeon or doctor or bookkeeper, you paid pretty much all similar. And very little can you do with that. You can't, to buy Levi's pants for me as a growing, as a child or adolescent, that was like, wow, maybe I can have, Dad, could I have just one pair, please? So once a year I would get like Levi's pants. And I remember that was and I would wear it for a year till next time. So, and I could not afford a lot of things. And not only me, it's just majority of people. We lived average life, but you could not really move forward. You could not really, you could not build dreams. There's no thing. Everybody was the same. So everybody has basics. We had social care, medical care, basics. You could go in and get your surgery. You don't know who is going to be the surgeon. You don't know if they're good or bad, whatever. You know, you're kind of good luck. And sometimes things turn out good, sometimes they don't. You're not in charge with your doctor's care, with your medical care. It's like the state does everything, and you're pretty much in state's hands. And
sorry. I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna back up really quick. As you mentioned when you were younger that your parents were, you know, that you had a good life and you didn't really notice those things. What did your parents do? Did your parents hide it? How were they able to give you a life that looked and presented itself different? And then you noticed that it was much different than you thought when you got older.
Well, for example, when we got to Belgrade, I was 5 years old when we came to Belgrade, Serbia, where I grew up. And my dad, he got a job. He was working for the city. And he got you are in line to get your apartment. So he was you get your number, almost like waiting in line to get your meat and potatoes or whatever somewhere, right? Yeah. He was number such and such number, and we had to wait 7 years to get our apartment.
So where'd you stay? Like, where'd you?
We had to go private, and we stayed in very small places. My mom and dad had a hard time finding a place that accepted children. So it was really difficult. And we stayed in 1-bedroom apartments, changing, going back and forward until finally one day we got our place that the government, the state had appropriated to us, right? And that was like the big day, right? So with their salary, there's nothing like, there's no other option. There is no other option. You could not buy a condo or a house. I mean, people had those. I mean, people high in a party, the cliques, you know, the people who are in high government, they were rich.
Right.
They had everything. And then
So what was the overall vibe then among, you know, the people, like your friends at school? Like, did you guys know that things were bad, or was it just normal? Or how did you know that you wanted to come to America? You know, did you see it on television? Or, I guess you said in the movies. But, you know, were people happy? I mean, did you still have a good childhood?
Everybody was always looking for a better life, especially, you know, I mean, if you had a good education, you wanted to achieve and do more. I had English as a second language since kindergarten. So I was fluent when I came to the United States with English. Everybody had the second language back home. So that was normal. But like I say, unless you are belonging to that top layer of population, high in a party and connections and etc., you have to either settle for a very mediocre life, right? And in a city. And luckily, everybody had somebody in a countryside, so they could have extra perks from food and etc. from the country farm and stuff, which was kind of nice. But if you're living in a city and you're just getting a job, you get your job after your college, let's say degree, you get your job and you're set till you retire, and that's the same job you have forever. And for example, to give you just an example, right now when I go and visit, the groceries there maybe, let's say 30% less expensive than here when you go in a grocery store. But an average person makes $500-600 a month.
Wow. Like, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't, that's like doctors, teachers. I mean, because it's pretty equal.
Maybe doctors and surgeons make $1,000 a month.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah. So if you need a surgery or something like that, those surgeons, I mean, they're like, now they have private clinics since the Yugoslavia fell apart. They kind of trying to privatize more, but it takes many years and decades to really get from under socialism. So once you have those humongous government programs, it's very difficult to let go of that. So they have more private clinics and stuff. So things are getting better. Those doctors who have opportunities, but not all doctors have those opportunities to work clinics. So people are looking always for opportunities to go abroad and get jobs where they could be paid to live the life like which they see how other of their friends live in the West. If you're a doctor or a lawyer or even a skilled worker right here, beautiful job, right? In America, you can do a lot of great things and make wonderful living meaning something. What is wonderful living? That is just depends on every person. To me, wonderful living is if I can feed my family, not worry when I go to the store what to buy for food. Wow, what a perk. Americans don't think that's a big deal, but for most people in the world, that's a perk,
Yeah.
I couldn't have ham all the time. That was a special time when my mom would buy ham for my ham sandwich, right? Or bananas. That's not, it was too expensive because it was tropical fruit, not that something that was grown back home. So having a home or buying a home or traveling, going to Hawaii or Mexico for vacation, wow. I mean, those are beautiful things that we can do, go with friends and celebrate, go to the games, concerts, things like that you want to do, have a car. And not only you, your husband has a car, your child has a car. I mean, those are wonderful things that we enjoy here in the United States. And I think most people that live here don't think about it. It's not that they take it for granted. It's nothing malicious, of course, but people just think that that's just a norm, that's just it. But it's not. And that's why people are coming here to have that. That's the dream. That's the dream.
That's very true.
Comfort of living like that. That's a beautiful dream. Yeah, come true. Yeah. Right. And when the state takes over, I noticed when I was here, I've been here for 33 years. So, into first 10 years or so, I noticed the government programs getting bigger and bigger, and that's when I started worrying and talked to my friends and family, and we all were like, my gosh, where's this heading? Why are the government programs getting bigger? Why is the bureaucracy getting thicker? Why is DMV as it is? Why is, things like that. And then you starting to feel like, oh my gosh, the bigger the government, the closer it is to something we know, because the experience I have with bureaucracy here is just the same as I had it back home, and I don't want that to take over. Yeah. Because I know what's leading,
Right. And so on that note, can you give us a little history of how, Yugoslavia got to the socialism and where it was? I mean, did it start out that way, or how did it slip in, and how did it, I mean, you mentioned the bureaucracy and the bigger government. I mean, we know how it happens, but specifically, Yugoslavia?
So it happened like, as Obama once said, or Saul Alinsky, or one of those people, right, who always talk about Marxism and socialism. You create chaos or problem, and then you are the solution, right?
Okay.
So in during World War II, because we were a kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes prior to that, during the war, the Communist Party took over. And in 1943, they formed Yugoslavia, and they had the full support of the country, the Allies, the partisans, the communists. They had the full support of the Allies. So they were recognized, and they were right away recognized as this is the country. The partisans, the communists, they are the ones. And we had the leader called Tito. He was actually good comparing to many others, because he has a history where he said no to Stalin, because Stalin was with the Eastern Bloc. He had all these countries, as we know, in that bloc, and they had the really tough communism, much harsher stories than we had, because he had kind of a barrier. He kept us a little bit under umbrella of his leadership, and he had a lot of friendship with the West, but he was a really amazing politician. So he kind of balanced it where we had a little more freedoms, but still very communist, and still the state owned everything. My grandfather, on my mother's side, he had a lot of land that his sons, who became partisans during the war and communists, of course, they handed over to the state all their father's land.
Wow.
I mean, it was just crushing. People just simply, their land was just taken over, and they didn't have much. I mean, you were just allowed to have so much, and the rest had to belong to the state.
Yeah.
So
I can kind of see that happening here now. You know, like you said, it started 10 years ago, but it seems like we're kind of even more recently more on a fast track. You know, I see some of this.
I noticed it 10 years into being here, so which is like almost 20.
Oh, sorry. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, I've been noticing it for a long time. Yeah.
But it's like you see like the grooming of that started long ago, because we don't just get here today. We're having so many people that agree with it out of nowhere, you know, and, you know, so it took a while. You see that it took it through education and the universities and, you know, what I guess like, you know, grade school, then the universities, and then, you know, in every system, it's just that grooming process and that indoctrination that gets us to where we are today. And now it seems like we're on more of a fast track here with some of the stuff that I'm seeing with Biden and the whole Build Back Better, where that's a globalist type term. You know, you've seen that from the some of the Europeans, or what's his face in England? Forget his name. Crazy hair guy. You know, that was their slogan.
Boris?
Build back. Yeah, Boris. That was their slogan, Build Back Better, and a few others. And it's like, you know, this whole great reset. And instead of taking it serious and actually looking into it, people have been so brainwashed, I don't really know of a better word to call it, to think that that's a good idea, because we should have what they call equity. And I feel like equity is what gets you into a situation like Yugoslavia or former Yugoslavia and into communism, because everyone's just equally poor.
Well, what I did notice, what has happened here last couple of decades is that, and this is what the Marxists are using here in the United States, the guilt factor. The guilt factor. They're using the guilt factor with children, with young adults, where they're saying pretty much, this is how they get them on their side. Well, you should feel guilty that you're having all these wonderful things, and you should share those things. You see, they're not going to just come and take things from you. They're trying to change you and brainwash you into thinking you should voluntarily give that all up, because you should feel guilty that you're successful and the others are maybe not as privileged as you are, when in fact you're not. Your parents work hard to get you through your education. They earn that. And that's not a privilege. That's just simply hard work. Sometimes a little luck, sure, but that's life. I mean, even in an animal kingdom, I mean, there's some order. There is no, like, you know, you don't tell a lion, you know, it's really not fair. You want to eat that zebra for lunch today. I mean, really, I have that conversation. So the guilt factor is what started, and then people believe, and this is with young adults here, they believe, okay, I feel bad, I want to help everybody, and that's very genuine and noble that they want to help, but they don't though. They're used. That's their genuine desire to help the world is used by these Marxists to really rein in very evil powers, right? That are actually just making them powerful and them more rich. Not, you know, and the kids don't know. I'm sorry about my dog.
No, it's okay.
Kids don't know what is it like in Marxism and communism. They think they're going to keep their car, they're going to keep all the good stuff they have. I know. Keep their travels. They're going to keep their good life. And on top of that, as a little cherry on a cake, they're going to also have the communism. No, it doesn't work that way. They don't go hand in hand. You lose all that.
No, and I think even Klaus Schwab, who's like a huge globalist on the World Economic Forum, he even said, he's quoted saying, "You will own nothing and you'll be happy." So, I mean, I don't really know how to respond to that, honestly, other than to tell them to F off. But it's like they're working towards this globalization of everything, and they can't, the United States is kind of I don't know if it's the central part of making of maybe we're just the country that's going to be the hardest to break down, and so they've been working on us for a lot longer than, or I don't even know, honestly, but it just seems
the hardest
like
country to break down. I personally don't think they're going to break it.
I don't either. Not now.
I think this is where we're gonna hit the rock bottom. They've been doing chaos throughout the whole world, changing countries and messing with everybody with globalism. But I think this is where it's gonna finally it's gonna hit the rock bottom and implode.
Do you think Trump had anything to do with that? Because
Yes.
I can tell you that. Okay, because I'm a former.
I was gonna
liberal.
ask that too.
Yeah, you are
right now. Yeah.
So I'm a former liberal, and I don't think, and I was mostly just didn't really pay attention, and now I see the consequences of me not paying attention, and some of the stuff that we're fighting in the schools, and and it's like, well, this didn't happen on its own. This happened because we let it happen, and now we have to do something about it because this is our fault, because they can't do anything without our permission. And whether it be permission by just ignoring what's going on and allowing things to continue, or by actually giving permission, being guilty however they do it. And so I think Trump becoming president is what woke me up, because he was so loud about everything and made you question it. It also made you want to, the media kind of screwed themselves in this way because they were so loud about him. It made you want to look into him, where like Obama was kind of boring. I didn't really have any interest in looking at him, but everything they said about Trump, and then Trump also just being super loud, I was like, okay, what is it about this guy? And sure enough, I don't think Trump's perfect, and I disagree with him on a lot of things, but
Perfect.
I think
nobody's
right.
perfect.
Well, apparently
he's
Biden is or something.
He's straightforward, and he speaks as he see it. And that is painful for people who have an agenda, because they are dishonest. Anybody with an agenda is dishonest, because you can't be honest and have an agenda.
No, without it kind of blowing up. And you're right. I think it is kind of blowing up in their face now, and they don't really have a plan B. This was their plan, whatever they're doing right now. And so they're kind of, in my opinion, going full force with it and just trying to take out anyone they can along the way, because I think that they are kind of falling apart. But I worry about what this means, because I feel like some people are going to have a hard time. I feel like America's going to go have a near-death experience. And so those are just, but you're right. I don't think it's going to totally fall apart. I hope not.
I don't
think
so.
Yeah. I think,
I'm optimistic.
Me too.
I think it'll get pretty bad for a minute, maybe. They'll try. It's bad right now, look at all the stuff Biden's trying to do, and just the all this still like COVID fear stuff, and just, I was getting my nails done today, and there was a commercial on. So they had the radio playing, and there was a commercial on, and it was like, saying something about like, oh, we're almost there. We're almost through it. We did it all together. And, they do this whole greater good and wear the mask. Like you were saying, Jana, the guilt, like, wear your mask. It's for the greater good. But anyway, this commercial was in a positive note, and it was saying, we're almost there. We did it. Like, so many people are getting vaccinated. And then the next commercial was like, well, like, we're still not out of the pandemic. Make sure you're wearing a double cloth mask. And I'm like, can they even pick one? Like, whoever is in charge of the commercial break on this radio show is fired, because they had like one, like, we're fine, and then another like back to back about masks.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Everything is like clown world.
Whole agenda. You have one state where they're 100% open. They have concerts, they have events, and then next state, people are wearing masks and no gatherings.
Yeah,
it's just it's pure politics.
Pick a lane.
Even if we had a pandemic, we were over. It's been over for a while now. So, and for me personally, to see what they do to children is just inhumane. It's just inhumane with schools and the masks. Especially since we know that this was not affecting children to begin with. But censorship, that's the state in power. The censorship, when the state is so powerful and is married to big tech, and they work together on censoring people and taking people down. And I mean, people are losing their jobs, they're losing their businesses, they're losing their voice. Those are the freedoms that are just, that's danger zone. That is really where we're going full force forward into communism, or they're going full force into imploding, because America, the more they force it, the worse it will get for them, I think, because the more Americans are opening their eyes, because it's just like surreal. What's
too much, yeah. Like they used to be pretty slick about it, where we didn't really, we weren't really paying attention.
They were for many years very slick about it, but now they're like fully open, and it's, I mean, you deplatform the president of the United States, you deplatform doctors who have opposite opinion, who are researchers, scientists, who have something to say, and you take them down. You don't want them to speak. I mean, we want to know everything.
Yeah.
Want to hear everything, right? That's
what was censorship like in your country? I mean, I think that, were you allowed to speak out about anything? Was there only one narrative? Did any of that stuff, was that noticeable? Or?
When I was growing up, it was pretty much thick in that socialist communist way. So there was no other way. Like, for example, my dad, in order to have a good job, you have to join Communist Party right away, right? And they have your obligations, etc. And when we were little, he sent us to my grandmother, and we were baptized there on a farm. The Pope came to the house and he baptized us, because basically we were taught in school that the church and religion is just for the peasants, that people who are uneducated believe in God. And my dad, as a communist, could not take us to church and baptize us. And pretty much churches were empty. Some people would go there, but most people did not. And communists certainly would not want to be seen going to church. So we were kind of hiding. Baptism was hidden kind of in a background.
Wow.
And I remember telling my grandma when I was little, what are those icons? We are Orthodox Christians, so we have icons. So what are those icons on it? What are those pictures on the wall? Why are you like that? You need to educate yourself, Grandma.
Oh, so you were indoctrinated a little, obviously.
Totally, yes. Wearing my red scarf, white shirt, singing songs in choirs, doing all of it, of course, because I'm a child. I was a child and I didn't know different.
And they do that, like they're doing that to our youth now. You can see it a little bit where, these kids, just with the current virus situation and the mask.
Sponges, yeah.
Yeah, well, they are. And they know that. They know, I mean, even Hitler's Youth was Hitler's Youth for a reason. They knew that they had to get the parents out of the way, get the kids to tell on the parents, and get the, and completely indoctrinate them. And that's totally what's happening right now. And it's been happening because I know that honor your mother and father no longer exist. And, they don't have respect, and it's unfortunate, but, it sucks that we didn't see it coming and that it wasn't in our face, and I'm glad we're seeing it now. But I mean, all these things, it's not, they always say the devil has no new tricks, and he just does the same exact tactics every single time. It just looks a little, like tweaks it a little bit, and it works on us every time.
No, it's horrible to take parents out of the picture and not allow. We were, like you say, there was, how did I see censorship, etc. We were so thick in it that we didn't know different. There was you didn't even think of different. The only different was somewhere else in another country. There was we still have here, we see the difference, and we see there's a fight of communists versus capitalism. We see we're in the middle of that fight here. But back there where I was growing up, there was just no different. There was just, that was the only way. There was no fight. And even now today, when I have my mom and my brother living back home, and when I go back home, I mean, most of the media is pretty much, still state-driven media. And then you have some, there are voices, but you have to go a little more underground to hear opposition, etc. So, I mean, that's good. We have that.
Isn't that like this now? I mean, isn't that kind of where we're at right now? Like our state-run media, like CNN, Fox, even Fox, all of them, and then you have to kind of go to alternative.
What is interesting, what I notice now, what is so interesting, the globalism has taken over so much, because you can go when I fly back home, and for example, last time if I land in Frankfurt or Zurich, CNN blasts on the airport and the same news, right? And then you go to Belgrade, Serbia, and they have CNN or something similar like it. But even if it's not CNN, somehow they penetrate it so well that everything that we hear here, the same fear tactics, the same agendas are now over there. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the same people are writing the script. So the globalists have really gone over the top and way far and out. Yeah.
They're all in on it together, not us. And that's actually what they want, is us to be divided. And that, that's just politics. But
always dividing.
But it's by design. Yeah.
And that's another. Guilt is one of their first, if they have amendments, the First Amendment guilt. Second would be like divide and conquer, constantly division. Go into the country, divide everybody, divide Serbs and Croats, or Muslims and Bosnians, or Montenegrins in my country. Everybody against everybody. Oh my gosh. Just like here, like everybody divided. And it's like, now it's parents versus children. I mean, really? I mean, that's how they do it. That's how they
I pretty much lost I've lost family. I mean, some of my family and I have become very distant just over the fact that we disagree on something like a mask, I mean, it's just that bad. And if you sit back and think about it for a second, it's like, for what, I mean, and I can fault also take some responsibility for that, but it's, from on my own, but it's like, that's how much they've won. And it's kind of sad because I don't know how to I don't know how to rebuild those relationships, because we are on such so far from our, from anything. And it's like, I don't feel like I moved too far in a different direction. I feel like one side did. Like, I feel like the liberal, or like not even liberal, because I don't even know why we call them that, but like the Democrat Party, there's a part of that far left that just went really far, and everyone else kind of stayed, in the middle, or like even, you have the right and everything, but it's like that group of people that were even part of the Democrat Party or something was like, wait, no, this goes against all my values and things. But it just went so far. And it's like everything that they are about is exactly what you've been talking about, and what so many other people who come from socialist countries or communist countries have been warning about. And they can't even see it. And it's really sad, because I don't know what that means for them in the future. But it sucks because the line has been drawn on so many different ways. And also, I think it's also a good thing, because we can do that in America. We can fight this battle, and then we can recover from it, I hope.
Well, hopefully. I mean, they're just trying to destroy any means of our fight. Like they're pretty much tying our hands and our feet and saying, okay, let's go for a race. It's like, really? I mean, if you don't have a voice, and they're trying to take down any voices and any ways of communication. And that's pretty scary, right? And it's really not about the party. And this is another thing which they were trying to divide us. It's party, it's left, it's right, this and that. It's about common sense and what is good for us, for our children, for our future, for our lives, for our neighbors. We have to live with each other every day. And America is that ultimate beautiful place where everybody from all over the world has come here, all colors, all backgrounds, and we all live beautifully well together. But they don't want us to get along, because then we're more powerful, we're stronger together. So
Right.
how do you weaken your opponent? You divide and you keep them from not talking to each other. Like you don't talk to your family member. We don't talk to neighbors. You don't want to offend somebody, right? So that's how we stay silent. And that's how they control us easier. If we
Yeah,
all
PC
talk common
culture.
sense and we agree on it, that means they have less power.
I think also it's, boils down to these to different motives. You have their intrinsic desires or motives and then extrinsic desires and motives. And Summer, when you were talking about disagreeing just over something about masks, it's you can disagree about one thing and then you can agree on others, but sometimes the little thing, like the mask thing, is just the start of a bigger thing. And or it just shows you kind of already who they are. But what I was gonna say about with the masks and these motives, and especially with the vaccine, when you're warning people about taking the vaccine or whatever, it's about them. It's not about you. It's not because you're worried about getting COVID from them. It doesn't hurt you if they get the vaccine or not, except for the fact that if you care about them and they get the vaccine and have a bad reaction, then they could die or be sick. Same with masks. You're just saying hey, look, we're taking away our freedoms. We don't want this to happen. I don't think you should wear a mask. It's actually not really that great for you. And they're just doing it because somebody told them to. They saw it on the news. They're worried about themselves getting COVID, or they're scared they're going to kill grandma because that's what the news told them. And so it's none of it, we are trying to help others, and they're kind of even though they think they're in it together, they're actually being selfish. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
they all
virtue
look
signaling.
it's a bubble. They create
Yeah.
bubbles. People live in these bubbles, and the media feeds that bubble. So
Right.
It's ability to get out of your bubble and stay in reality. That's where the real life.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep telling people this whole last year of COVID, do you know somebody in your neighborhood? Do you know somebody in your family? How many people in your neighborhood, in your family have died from this? And
Yeah.
at least where we live, I can't find those people.
I don't know anyone.
So, it's just, that is the reality. That is the reality. And people rely on the television versus on their reality. I mean, I know my neighbors, and then there's the elderly here, and they're still here.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to my next question, I think, is the propaganda. And I know we've talked about this before, and it's really interesting to me because you have mentioned where the propaganda that was from, given to the Americans that really made us what you heard, what the information or whatever was given to Americans was complete propaganda about what was going on in the war and in your country and between the countries around you was wrong and not right. And you tried to, if you could just kind of talk about that a little bit and how well that you noticed how well the propaganda really worked on us. And I think that feeds into other things in our country that we've done to other countries that we've excused because we don't know the truth and things and just how easy it is for them to get away with this stuff if they're just lying to us.
Yes, it's so easy. So we're so far. America, when you look on a map, how far are we from Yugoslavia or Serbia, where I'm from? And the news that are brought to you here or to us here, we just see the pictures, and then there are pictures and videos, and then there is a reporter that is attaching a story to that picture or video. Now, what is that story going to be is very, very well programmed or planned ahead. They're not going to tell you maybe what really is going on, because first of all, they have caused, let's say NATO or the powers to be or the globalists have caused division in my country. And because it's always easier to divide the country into smaller pieces, and then you can rein in. Right? It's very easy. If the country was all together. And then they choose sides. If somebody like Serbia, for example, was, we were never really, we were never really easy to listen to the orders of powers to be. in the world.
Oh,
We
okay.
wanted to be more, free and just live our life and leave us kind of alone. Well, that did not go well with NATO, and they definitely took sides, and in my country, they decided, okay, they're going to support Muslims on the south of Serbia, or Muslims in Bosnia, or Croatians versus Serbs. And they were always painting Serbs as the bad guys, because in general, Croatians who happen to be Catholics, and Serbs who are Orthodox Christians, who are more like leaning towards Russia, and Croatians, Catholics, who are always leaning more towards the West. Of course, they were right away having their allies there. And we were always the bad guys, and they were always painting us as bad guys, even though scenarios that I heard from back home were completely different from people, my own family and friends who lived there. They were telling me this and that is happening. And then the next day in CNN, I hear a completely opposite story, 100% opposite story. And they were painting Serbs as bad so they could one day lead to bombing Serbia, which Clinton said, oh, gosh, those Serbs are not treating Muslims in Kosovo well. So we have to go bomb them, because they can't, we have to show them who is, who are you to go and bomb a country in Europe, because you are, first of all, you're messing in their own politics, and then you're deciding whose side to be on, and then you go and bomb them. So you bomb and you kill civilians, and you destroy their properties, and they destroyed all the manufacturing. Sorry, it's getting dark in here. I have to find some light.
That's okay.
Just notice I'm disappearing in this dark.
Jana, come back to us.
I know. You're going to the abyss.
No, your light is shining so bright, Jana.
Yeah.
You are just.
I have a natural light.
You are the light.
It's getting dark. So I lost one of my best friends who was in a television station that was bombed and destroyed. He lost his life there. It was horrible. But the bombs, they say, oh no, we dropped the bombs only they destroyed all the manufacturing. Things that are going to take decades to repair. And the worst thing that they did, they used old bombs and old materials they wanted to get rid of, which was all depleted uranium in their bombs. So we have so much cancer in all the areas of Serbia, Bosnia, and Kosovo, and that whole area where they were bombing our military, our manufacturing, etc. We have cancer. They use depleted uranium. This is talking about crimes against humanity.
Right?
Yeah.
Brushed all under the carpet. Yeah, Monica Lewinsky, let's get back to that. So
and this was America, you said? This was Clinton.
It was NATO with Clinton, but Clinton was the one that, it was Madeleine Albright and Clintons, and they were just pounding on Serbia. And I mean...
And why was that? Why did they get... Maybe you already mentioned this, so sorry if I missed it.
Because we wanted to defend our sovereignty.
Oh.
We wanted to stay free. And decide what our internal affairs, we didn't want anybody to get involved, but they insisted because there's so much capital involved. Like on the south, the Kosovo area has amazing uranium, and Serbia's lithium, and there's a lot of capitalism that was having eye. This is what they do. They destroy a country and then they go in and buy it for peanuts.
Yeah.
Well,
like
you don't
China's
have to
doing right now.
And then they order them around. They put their people in there who are in charge, and they keep getting all this great capital, and the people are staying poor, and it's just and then the country is all in shambles. Every time they get involved, things end up like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And nowadays, people in Yugoslavia are saying, wait a minute, why did we ever, it was a man-made war. It wasn't a natural war, because we all loved each other and we all have friends. I mean, everybody's mixed. I mean, Bosnian, Croatian, Slovenian, whatever, Serbian, whatever. We're all the same. It's like no big deal, but.
That's what we've been saying here. I feel like I've heard that before. Heather, were you going to say something? Sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say you won't have to
Turn on the
convince
lights.
us.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's gone into the abyss.
You wouldn't have to convince us about the Clintons and crimes against humanity. I mean, let me just name a few. Haiti and what was it? Benghazi and all the people, Seth Rich, all the people that have her body count is pretty high. And I mean, she's just as corrupt as they come. But yeah, exactly. But that's crazy. I didn't know all that. I mean, I remember, I was kind of a kid when the whole Kosovo thing was happening, and I wasn't,
it's like
paying attention. Nobody was, and that's the problem. See, now it's harder for them to get away with it because people are paying attention.
Yeah, and the Kosovo is just like we had the 6 republics in Yugoslavia, and according to our constitution, they did have right to secede, and which did happen after all this was happening. But then Kosovo was not a republic; it's just a region. It's just the region of Serbia.
Yeah.
But they forced us to. They went in and they supported all the terrorists in Kosovo, and they created their own government, and they decided America and some NATO. That's the country now, and to this day there's a lot of disagreement on that. They're not fully accepted, but they just simply just like that decided they're going to make a country out of it. Just like that, out of my own, taking a piece of my own country, like here you have Napa Valley. Okay, well, Napa is not anymore California or not more United States. Just like that, some higher power comes in and decides that. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What about the people? Do they have say? So it's sad and it's ugly, and it's always because of some interest, because there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of coal and uranium and lithium and all kinds of things, and there's a lot of interest and a lot of roads through Yugoslavia and Serbia and then down to Kosovo lead to the whole Mediterranean, to Africa, to Middle East. I mean, it's all roads are crossing right there. So whoever gets hold of that has a lot of power, right?
Yeah.
And if Serbia stays intact, I mean, that's not good, because Serbs are kind of stubborn with their sovereignty thing and their freedom.
That dumb sovereignty thing.
God, I mean, can you imagine? They don't like to be puppets, I guess so.
That's like most Republicans.
Yeah.
So what is it? So that's kind of as through my awakening process, I guess I learned how much not Americans, obviously, just like the CCP doesn't represent the Chinese people and any sort of country like that, but our country, our government, and our politics, because they were so in line with the globalists. And I firmly believe that outside of Trump, Reagan, until he was tricked or, threatened, shot, and then Kennedy, there was really, everything. Everyone else has really just been a puppet, and if you stepped outside of that, I mean, you want evidence for it. Okay, well, all of them, I mean, Trump was pretty much, everything that happened to Trump, and then, Reagan was shot and Kennedy was murdered. So it's like, whatever this globalist organization that exists in America, if it's the CIA and if it's the FBI, all of them kind of work together and have just been, to Americans, were able to disguise themselves as an organization that's helpful and that is going to go into other countries and, give them, what they deserve, or however they worded it. And so many of us believe that. I can't imagine how many countries now are like, oh, finally, you guys are waking up to everything that we've been trying to warn you and tell you to get out of our country for years, because this is what they're doing. And now you guys are like, finally. So I feel, I don't know, maybe you have some inside knowledge on that and experience.
Yes.
Like how do they view us here?
Well, everybody always loved America because of pop culture and everything that was advanced and all came from especially from music and movies and everything. Everybody was enchanted with that, so that was always beautiful. But but like for my country, I mean, there's a big sadness and just kind of they're in a gasping for air mode of like all the untruths that have been spoken and so much damage done to our image and the truth and to us for out of nowhere for us doing nothing. I mean, in the history of my country, especially Serbia, all of us has been on a first lines with allies, giving their lives for World War I, World War II, always going for other countries and supporting. I mean, just now recently I heard the Czech Republic president extended official apology to our country.
Wow.
For supporting NATO during the bombings.
Wow.
They're just kind of like now feeling horrible about it. And I mean, there are so many generals that spoke the truth that were just, you could read it in some little print in somewhere, but they always said this was horrible what was done, and so on. So many lies have been spoken, but it's just something you learn to live with. So people still love Americans. I mean, we love the culture. We love American culture, but we don't love the American politics.
But the rest of the world has kind of caught up on the pop culture and technology. I mean, pretty much anyone can make a video or a movie now on TikTok or YouTube. No, just kidding. But I mean, like, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, America is when you say American culture, what is that? I mean, there's so many, it's a melting pot. So there's so many different,
well,
I don't know. I guess we're just maybe the most diverse.
The advancements that you guys, us, I mean, I'm American now, but right. So, but America has made a lot of advancements in science, and everything. And that's something that everybody looks up to. And, and that's the beauty of America and the American dream. Everybody looks up to the American dream. So that is a huge thing, because people know, okay, when Americans come, they spend money, they're in good mood, everybody's smiling, laughing, they're happy-go-lucky. People love that. I mean, I went to visit throughout the years. My friends always says, my gosh, you're always in a good mood, you always feel positive. And because they live day to day with all their worries and struggles, and they're not up to smiling. One of the big things I noticed when I came to the United States, I told all my friends here, I said, why is everybody smiling on television? Hi, tonight I'm going to tell you about this. Oh my gosh, there was a murder. Oh, on to the weather. So I'm like, they're talking some serious stuff and they're still smiling.
We had a lot of it wasn't real, because you had, what was that, like back in the 50s, and even like, I don't know, they put this like fakeness about us on TV all over, and not saying that we aren't happy people, because we are. We have no reason not to be. I mean, absolutely no. I've traveled, I've seen enough to where, where it always makes me, I always feel like the people that live in America that want to, that feel like they're just so oppressed and so beaten down, and like, and like the America, because of capitalism, is just so bad, and we need equity and everyone needs to be equal. And it's like, no, because you've never left this country, because there's not anyone who hears you say that in another country must think that you are a complete idiot.
They will come running back.
They're laughing at us. I mean, the things that I mean, you go, just having an Apple computer and iPhone is a prestige for most of the world. I mean, you know that iPhone is like $1,000, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people on this planet cannot afford that. Most people.
No.
So people who have all these privileges, I mean, just like they have the perks of being in a great successful culture of capitalism. The success of capitalism is that's what America is, perfect success. And then for those people to complain, it's just hard for most outsiders to understand.
Oh, it doesn't. It's hard for me to understand it. And I live here, and I grew up here, and I was born here, and I don't get it. And I never, even before, you know, I mean, I still knew that children were starving in Africa even before I was awake. You know, I still knew that we were the 1% to every country that we visited, you know, that the median income of the world is our lowest poverty level, you know, that it's like, I still knew those things. So I don't know what happened to some of the Americans in this country.
It's that guilt and agenda. It's certain class of people who are at the top who decided that they want to change the world and they want to even out everybody. So the people from the bottom on the other parts of the globe, they want them up and others down. So everybody's like the same. So America has to kind of drop a few notches down. That's what they want. They want us to drop a few notches down so we're more obeying and more, you know, more under control.
But
And
the only
so-
reason why we
yeah.
have these like advanced technologies and this advanced science and where we're at today and what makes it, you know, medicine, even though I disagree with a lot of it, but we have advanced technology for medicine that is unbelievable. It's incredible. You know, the certain things like where they can go in through your like stomach to fix something in your heart or your leg or whatever. That happens through privatization, and that doesn't happen in a government run country where they own everything. And that's why we look so advanced, because we are private. We are capitalist. It's capitalism that did that. And we should be proud of that. And I think every money, or I don't know what you call it, but capitalism, communism, socialism, everything can be corrupted. But it doesn't mean that we just, you know, I think our capitalism right now is corrupt, because we do have corporations working with the government who have pretty much joined. You know, we have the big corps that are censoring and the corporations that are kind of like beating out the small businesses, which is what makes America America. So there's some things that we have to fix, but it's why we are where we are today as a country. And we've only been a country for 250 years, and we've accomplished all of this, and we're the youngest country. So
I think oh,
go ahead.
I know. I thought you were done.
No.
That always happens. So I think a lot of it too, though, is even without the First Amendment, because, you know, a lot of our advancements happened from free and open speech and, you know, free thought, where you could ask a question and then you could, through science, find the answer. But now you're not allowed to ask the questions, or you're a conspiracy theorist if you do, and you're silenced. So
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
Yes.
And
the key to advancement is the freedom of speech, number one, and the freedom of making your dream come true, which is like small business. That's what built America, and that is where the most employed people are, through small business.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that is what. Why would we change it? Why would we fundamentally change it, as Obama has said once? We want to fundamentally change America. Why? When
because they don't think
what we have is phenomenal.
They don't think it was phenomenal, though. They don't think so. They don't like, you know, we have a bad history in America. We have racism and we have oppression, and
but everybody has history. You can't change history. Everybody has history. Germans have history. Are we beating them down for it? It's history. No. We need to know it. We need to learn it. Yeah. And we have to live in this moment. But you can't. True. Everybody has history, and we all learn from history. And that's that. I mean, people who are born today, they cannot carry the burdens of something from yesterday, but they can learn from it, right? But if you keep guilting people for something they have never participated in, I mean, that is just cruel. That is simply cruel.
Yeah. Yes. It doesn't, it doesn't make any sense to me, but, I don't really know. I don't, you know, I wish that I do think there's a solution, and a lot of that starts with education. And, I think that if there's one thing that I, you know, can find some common ground with somebody like BLM, is that our history is really, let's say, what they would call whitewashed. And what I mean by that is that our education system doesn't teach our full history. It doesn't teach the good, the bad, and the ugly. It does teach a very one perspective, and that is that kind of like white people did everything back in the day. And how is that not supposed to breed some level of racism in some people? That's just one area, you know, because there's thousands of non-white people from the 16, 17, 1800s that nobody knows about. And that's because it wasn't taught. So it's like, I think there's a lot of education that needs to, be changed and really be taught. And something like the 1619 Project is the opposite of what needs to happen, because that's just more racism and that's just more dishonesty and untruth. But, you can just kind of see where it starts.
So important. I mean, people don't know history of the world or history of Europe. Like, Serbia was 500 years under Turkish Empire, and biggest part of Europe was under Turkish Empire. I mean,
I don't even know if I know that.
Now, nobody knows how many people learn about that. And they were cutting heads, and they were doing all kinds of horrible things and enslaving people. And that was until 1800s. I mean, that wasn't like that long ago. And then every country has a horrible history. I mean, unfortunately, humanity has a lot of dark side, but also a bright side. So we need to teach children everything, because it's all part of humanity, and they need to know. And knowledge is power, and not just try to keep one side. And everybody has a bad story. Sure, everybody has a bad story. But regardless of color or ethnicity, everybody's got something. I'm telling you, every country you look in the world, they're going to tell you some horrific stories from their past. And slavery was unfortunately everywhere. I mean,
everyone's
pharaohs to this day, it still exists. We have, I mean, trafficking children and sex slavery, and it's horrific what's going on in the world. And we don't even, the media doesn't even bring that up much. I mean,
no.
And neither do our politicians. I mean, there's 20,000 kids at the border, but that's a whole other segment.
We'll have to have you on for another show about that. We could talk I'm sure we could talk to you for hours.
We are coming up, as like an hour, but I wanted to, I don't know, Heather, if you have any other questions, but there's one more thing I wanted to ask we forgot to, and then we can kind of wrap up here so we don't, take up too much more of your time. But immigration. So one thing that you mentioned that was interesting to me that I think a lot of us Americans don't understand, and maybe we're lied to, maybe we just, I don't know what it is that how immigration works and how difficult it is, and especially from where you are from. So if you don't mind, just kind of.
Yes. So immigration, I definitely felt every step of the way what immigration is about. For 7 years of staying here in the United States, I didn't see my parents. I was in the process of getting my green card, and my mom was trying to get visa and my dad to come and visit, and they were denied consistently. And so I didn't see them for all those years. So basically how it works with the United States, what I have learned through my own experiences, it's all politics. Immigration is simply politics. Lobbyists in Washington, D.C. for certain countries or certain political or economical reasons, capitalism, etc., interest or whatever, globalist interest, they decide what is the immigration policy going to be for what country. So certain countries get visas very easily. Very easy. They can just walk in, get visa. For example, Albania is south of Yugoslavia and very, very poor country. That's where from there we got Kosovo problem, because Albanians moved into Kosovo and now they want their own country, etc. But Albanians were so poor that they would come to Belgrade to get to American embassy. They didn't have an American embassy. They would walk in and get visas like candies. It was like a known thing.
Wow.
And Serbs, for example, in Belgrade, we would go in and you would have to get tons of paperwork to prove that you're either going to school or you have a strong job or you have money in a bank, something that's tying you to staying at home, that you're going to own. You have to prove them over and over again that you're going to come and just visit, that you're not going to stay. And even then, I mean, they trick you, they ask you this question and that, and all kinds of things. So getting a visa is very difficult. I wanted to have some of my friends come and visit me, and they just say, you know what, I don't even want to go through that. The visa process, it's too difficult. And for my son has a friend back home, my best friend's son wanted to come and visit, but he's young and he didn't have a job at the time. I was going to buy him a ticket to come and spend some time with us. And he says, no, I don't dare. I have to because they're not going to give me a visa. And I notarized the letter and stuff. And anyway, But at the same time, other countries that they want to come, right? Not only that they give them easy visa, but they even open borders, right? And say, come on.
Yeah, like the southern border.
So,
but then they call us racist.
So somebody who with the full education, knowledge, speaking English, full education, has so much to offer for this country, could have a lot of difficult times coming here. But then somebody from another country that they are friendly. It's all about immigration policies that's set in Washington, D.C. It's
And like whatever agenda they might have.
An agenda. It's always agenda. Trust me. Nothing but agenda. Nothing
like
but
maybe you know, like the car manufacturing business needs workers, and so they open up a certain country where they get a lot of good workers from. Like, is that what you're basically saying? Like, you know, so then they lobby in Washington.
Also, if they are friendly, if the country is, if they're listening, if they're a good ally to you.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're a good ally and you're behaving yourself, we're going to definitely loosen up that visa program. But if you're not behaving yourself, we're going to tighten it up. So it's kind of like that. It's a lot of politics. It's a lot of politics.
What is it?
And I'm curious to how easy it would be for us, you know, being American citizen to get, I mean, we just have our passports. We can travel anywhere. Yeah. But, you know, it's crazy.
It's so sad. I have one of our friends, this gentleman I know, his fiancée was from Russia, and she was actually from Chernobyl. She was one of the Chernobyl victims. And she came here young after Chernobyl, and she got cancer. They were about to get married, but she got cancer as a consequence of Chernobyl. And her family tried desperately to come and visit her, and they were denied. And even though she was on a deathbed, they kept denying them.
Wow.
And
That's so sad.
They never saw her. She died. They never saw her.
Wow.
I'm sorry. That's so sad.
There's so many stories like that. So many stories. And then there are other countries where I hear through all these years that one person comes in, they get visa, and then allow for that country, they allow their whole families to come in. So all their brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, everybody is like gets visas like boom, like this in green cards from that particular country.
Wow.
I know. I think it's like Americans need to see that perspective, like the truth. Like we're all just, if you are thinking that one, America's racist and doesn't let anybody that's not white into this country, you're wrong. And two, if you think that open borders is, you know, I don't even know what people think with this open borders thing, but it's like, it's so important for people to realize like how much they're getting played. Like it's not even about like, you feeling a certain type of way, like you're just getting played. And if you want to know the truth, then let's talk about the truth. But to just sit here and say all these different, these different propaganda type talking points that these politicians who are taking money from lobbyists who are just playing you. And I just wish that more people would wake up to that. Because this is the reality, is what you're saying. And that's you're not the first person to say that, you know.
It's the reality.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that kind of, you know, just one reason we wanted you on is to be able to give us that insight that a lot of Americans, I mean, our listeners especially, but our listeners probably know a little more, but Americans in general just don't know, you know, about the inner workings of other countries and what it's like to grow up in socialism and just the life. And, you know, as long as we can see the warning signs, I think like you can't disagree with something if you don't understand it. Like you have to understand it first. You have to know about it to say, oh, okay, yeah, socialism is bad. Like, you know, like I don't think all these like Bernie supporters, and people that are in favor of socialism really know what it is. And so they won't ever disagree with it because they just don't know enough. And, you know, education is
how many people have given their lives to come to this country and tried, like you hear so many stories, people swim from Cuba and they do all
right.
And they literally die trying to escape that kind of communism, socialism. And I mean, I can't, there's so many great stories and so many sad stories, and
so many,
that's something people need to really pay attention to.
I have a friend who came here from Cuba came here. She was a little girl. Her father was actually a physician in Cuba, but it was when Castro was allowing people to leave. But you had to leave everything behind. You know, like they were wealthy. Well, whatever wealthy means in Cuba. And her father ended up staying, but her mother and brother, they left here. But even as they were trying to get out of the border, they had to leave their watch because that belonged to them. And she said they would come to, they knew that they wanted to leave, so they would come to her house, whatever these Gestapo type people were, and to do an inventory to make sure that you weren't taking anything that didn't belong to you.
Wow.
You know, and yet they still, and they didn't know anything about this country. You know, they were poor, they lived on the East Coast, you know, like most where, you know, a lot of people come in through. But, you know, she would tell me stories about how some people would escape and get through, and I'm not sure how this works, but go through Guantanamo Bay where they have like random like landmines, you know, but they would rather risk running through that than and get to Guantanamo Bay and get into America than to stay in that country. And it's like, yeah, I know that's like a really extreme version of that, but it's always their goal. That's always their end goal. And wherever they can get it to work, they do it and they go nuts with it. And it's like, so there's never been a time where that you know, you could see the patterns and the signs of that all the time. And I think it's really important for people to understand that and not allow that to happen here. So yeah, so we're really grateful for you coming on and talking about this. And this is, I enjoy talking to you, and I could just keep talking to you because you have so many awesome experience and stories and insights. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me. I hope.
Yeah, thank you, Jana. If people want to reach out to you, you'll have to send us, you know, if you have like an Instagram or anything for your photography business for one, and then if you maybe an email.
I will let you know, definitely.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We had so much fun. It was so interesting.
Thank you.
And inspiring, you know, it's just
very nice having you.
You're so brave for coming here, and you know you're lucky, and you're one of. I mean, I know I can feel that from your heart that you feel blessed to be here, and we appreciate that.
Very blessed, very blessed. Blessed.
But you're
American.
Yeah, you're natural now.
American.
You're U.S.
American.
You're one of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Through and through.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Good luck with everything.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. We will honor the American people with the truth and nothing else.
Come on, man.
That whether we are black,
You ain't black.
or brown, or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. And we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come.